Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to Smackdown and AEW Rampage review. Smackdown tonight was from the PNC Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina, while Rampage was taped from the Sasktel Centre in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, in Canada. And Smackdown tonight, it was a very mid-show tonight. Just nothing really happened on the show. No Roman Reigns tonight. Just very mid-show it was for SmackDown. But tonight on SmackDown, we had Sheamus and Holland. They ended up taking on Pretty Deadly, Pretty Awful, Elton Prince and Kit Wilson. We had Bayley versus Zelina Vega. We had the Austin Theory United States Championship Invitational Fatal 4-Way match. We had Santos Escobar versus Grayson, Butch, and AJ Styles, in that match. And in the main event, the Women's Championship was on the line. Asuka defended the title against Bianca Belair. But overall, SmackDown, very mid-show it was. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. SmackDown opened up tonight with Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair made her way down to the ring. Bianca got on the mic. She ended up saying that people always say that good things come to those who wait. She ended up saying, but it is hard to wait, especially when you want something so badly. Bianca then wanted to say that it feels like she has been waiting since May to get a rematch against Asuka to get her Women's Championship back. Bianca then stated that she went through a lot of hoops to get what is hers. She then went on to say that tonight is her night to show Asuka that vengeance is sweet. She ended up saying that she will give Asuka the KOD and walk out as the new WWE Women's Champion. And then Charlotte Flair ended up coming out. And WWE already wanted us to change the channel already. So Charlotte Flair came out while some of us were picking up our remotes to mute the TV. Some of us were having our hands on our face like, oh God, like that. So Charlotte got into the ring. She ended up saying that Bianca got her fired up. Charlotte then told Bianca that she thinks she will win tonight. And she is manifesting a win in Flair country. Charlotte then told Bianca that when she wins, she doesn't want any confusion as to who is next in line. Bianca then ended up saying to Charlotte that everyone knows the line starts and ends with her. So Charlotte ended up telling Bianca that when she does win, it will be herself against Bianca for the Women's Championship. Obviously, of course, that's going to happen. So Bianca ended up saying that she is focused on Asuka. But if she does win, nothing would be bigger than her against Charlotte at SummerSlam. Which we already know that's going to be coming. Charlotte's going to be in the title picture, which is sickening because WWE, they do it for Charlotte. So Charlotte ended up telling Bianca that if she wins tonight, it's on. So Bianca ended up telling Charlotte that she is ready for Asuka. Charlotte ended up extending her hand, and her and Bianca ended up shaking it. Charlotte ended up giving Bianca a woo, and then she left the ring. So then we saw backstage Asuka was shown watching both Bianca and Charlotte on a monitor, and pretty much that was basically that. Segment was fucking awful. And cringe. And then we had the first match of the night. Sheamus and Holland versus Pretty Deadly, Pretty Awful, pretty cringe. Kit Wilson, Elton Prince. The match itself was okay, in my opinion. Match started off with Sheamus running after Elton Prince, but Prince ended up leaving the ring. Sheamus then grabbed Kit Wilson and threw him into the ring. Prince got into the ring. Sheamus then ended up hitting Prince with a rolling senton. Sheamus then threw Kit Wilson to the outside. He then delivered a clothesline to Prince. Rich Holland then tagged in, so Sheamus and Holland ended up double teaming on Prince. Rich Holland ended up going for the cover, and Prince ended up kicking out. Rich Holland then ended up grabbing Prince. Prince ended up landing on his feet, and Prince then ended up hitting Holland with an uppercut. Kit Wilson was then tagged in, and then Pretty Awful ended up double teaming on Rich Holland in the corner. Prince ended up tagging back in, and once again, they double teamed on Rich Holland. Kit Wilson ended up taking in. Rich Holland ended up lifting both Pretty Deadly, Pretty Awful up, and Rich Holland ended up slamming them both onto the mat. Sheamus then tagged in. He then threw Kit Wilson onto the ring apron. Rich Holland ended up placing Prince on the top turnbuckle. Sheamus and Rich Holland end up delivering the 10 beats of the bottom. And then Smackdown went to commercial. Then as Smackdown came back from the commercial, Kit Wilson and Sheamus were in the ring. Kit Wilson delivered a running uppercut to Sheamus. Prince ended up tagging in. And again, Pretty Deadly, Pretty Awful, double teamed on Sheamus. So Kit Wilson was tagged back in. Sheamus ended up throwing Wilson down. Sheamus went for the tag, but Elton Prince ended up tripping Rich Holland off the ring apron. Wilson then delivered a neckbreaker onto Sheamus. He went for the cover, to which Sheamus kicked out. Wilson then climbed the top rope. He jumped off the top. Sheamus ended up hitting Wilson with a knee to his face. Rich Holland was then tagged in, and Prince ended up coming in too. So it was Rich Holland and Elton Prince, going at it. Rich Holland ended up knocking both men down, ended up knocking both Pretty Deadly down. Pretty Deadly ended up rolling to the outside. Sheamus climbed to the top rope, and he ended up landing onto Kit Wilson. Sheamus then threw Elton Prince back into the ring. Rich Holland then delivered a side slam, and Rich Holland ended up going for the cover, but Kit Wilson broke up the pin. Sheamus then delivered the bro kick onto Kit Wilson. Prince ended up throwing Sheamus to the outside. And all we saw was Elton Prince. He ended up undoing the top turnbuckle pad. Rich Holland ended up running towards Elton Prince. Prince moved out of the way, and Rich Holland ended up slamming into the exposed turnbuckle, throw first. So Prince then delivered a leg drop off the top rope to Rich Holland. Prince ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Pretty Deadly ended up winning the match. Overall, match was okay, but Pretty Deadly winning this, it was a cheap win. And then we had Kathy Kelly backstage. Kathy Kelly was with Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller ended up coming and smiling, and he ended up telling Kathy Kelly that he is not surprised that he could have a match against Austin Theory, the United States champion. Waller even went on to say that even The Rock is talking about him. He ended up saying if The Rock is looking for him, he knows where to find him. So Grayson Waller ended up saying, as for tonight, he will win the Fatal 4-Way. If you smell what he is cooking. So that was pretty much what Grayson Waller had to say. So Grayson Waller mocking The Rock. If you smell what I am cooking. So then we have Michael Cole. Michael Cole made an announcement on commentary that Jimmy Uso will be out of action for the foreseeable future. because he sustained a ruptured rib cartilage last week. With Sikoa jumping off the barricade and, just delivering a splash onto Jimmy through the commentary table last week. And then we saw Charlotte Flair. She was walking backstage with a suitcase, looking to leave the arena. Adam Pearce stopped Charlotte, and he ended up asking her where she is going. Charlotte ended up telling Pearce that she is leaving because she feels good about her championship match at SummerSlam. So then Charlotte ended up walking away. So then in came Bayley and Io Sky. Bayley ended up telling Adam Pearce that she is not the only one feeling good about Bianca versus Asuka tonight, as Io ended up lifting up her Money in the Bank briefcase. So both Bayley and Io Sky ended up laughing, and they walked away. Charlotte ended up coming back, and she told Pearce that she will be staying. Pretty much that was basically that. And then we had Zelina Vega versus Bayley. Of course, Bayley was accompanied by Io Sky. Bayley walked down, and she still had a clump of SHOTZI's hair in her hand. Io Sky, of course, with the Money in the Bank briefcase. So the match got underway, which the match only lasted 2 minutes. Of course, good old women's matches that go 2 minutes, the typical Vince McMahon, booking for women's matches. So Bayley ended up attacking Zelina Vega from behind. Zelina ended up falling to the outside. She slammed Zelina Vega face first onto the commentary table. So both women were on the ring apron. Zelina ended up delivering some kicks and then a right hand as Bayley ended up falling into the ring. Zelina went up to the top and she delivered a Meteora off the top rope to Bayley. So Zelina Vega ended up going for the cover. Bayley kicked out. Zelina then delivered a twist of fate to Bayley. She ended up going for the cover. Bayley kicked out. So we had Zelina end up delivering the double knees to Bayley. Zelina ended up grabbing the slipper, and she ended up hitting Bayley with it as Bayley ended up falling to the outside. Bayley ended up hanging Zelina Vega up on the ropes. She got back to the ring. She ended up hitting Zelina with the rose plant, and Bayley ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Bayley ended up winning the match. 2-minute match this was. So post-match, we saw a vignette, and it showed SHOTZI sitting on the floor, and she was holding a pair of clippers, and she had telling Bayley that she cannot be controlled. SHOTZI ended up telling her that she is a little weird, but also in control. She ended up telling Bayley that she wants to show her how chaotic she really is. So then SHOTZI had the clippers in hand, and she began to shave her head. And as she was shaving her head, she ended up saying that she is in control. She ended up telling Bayley that she is scared, that Bayley is scared. As she was just, shaving her head, continuing. And pretty much that was that. And then we had Jey Uso. Jey Uso, he was standing in the ring. Fans were chanting Uso. Jey got on the mic. He ended up saying, growing up, him and Jimmy were glued at the hip. He ended up saying that there is something about being twins that makes them special. He wanted to say that if Jimmy is sad, he is sad. He ended up saying that if Jimmy is happy, he is happy. If Jimmy is mad, then he is mad. If Jimmy is hurt, he is hurt too. Jey ended up saying that he never thought he would be hurting from a family member. He wanted to say that he respects the entire family, but when it comes to Roman Reigns, he is disrespecting all of him. He ended up saying that he will spank Sikoa like he did last week. He ended up saying, as for the wise man, Paul Heyman has been with the family for decades. But that stops right here. Jay ended up saying that we are looking at the real head of the table, and that is main event, Jey Uso. And then, of course, out came Paul Heyman with Solo Sikoa. Paul Heyman introduced himself, of course, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. And he also introduced Solo Sikoa. Paul Heyman ended up saying that Solo Sikoa is not here to enforce his will, and that he is there to enforce the peace. Paul Heyman ended up telling Jay that they will step into the ring, and nothing will happen except the conversation. Heyman ended up saying that Jay knows how it works, as it has worked that way long before he was even born. He wanted to say that this was something that has been passed down for generations. Heyman wanted to say that next week on Smackdown, Jay and the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, will go face to face, and they will discuss the rules of engagement. He ended up saying tonight they are going to talk about things. So Paul Heyman ended up telling Jay that he knows he is angry, but Jay is sounding more and more like a tribal chief every day. Paul Heyman ended up looking at Sikoa and ended up telling him he is right. Heyman ended up saying that Jay has no self-awareness. He doesn't understand. He ended up saying that he doesn't have the conscience needed to be the right-hand man. Heyman ended up telling Jay what happened to Jimmy is all his fault. So the fans ended up booing at that. Paul Heyman ended up telling Jay that he opposed Roman, and he wanted to become the head of the family, the protector of everyone's children. So Paul Heyman ended up looking at the camera. He ended up telling Jimmy it's his favorite Uso. He ended up saying that the reason why Jimmy is in the hospital is because of his twin brother, Jay. Paul Heyman ended up telling Jay that he doesn't know how he can ever forgive himself, or how Jimmy will ever forgive him. So he ended up saying that he tells him his father will never forgive him. His mother will never forgive him. Paul Heyman ended up telling Jay that he loves them and that Roman Reigns will never forgive him. Solo then extended his hand, and he was asking for the mic. Sikoa ended up grabbing the mic. He ended up telling Jay that's what happened to Jimmy. And that's all on him. So Sikoa ended up saying for himself he will never forgive Jay either. Sikoa then dropped the mic, and both Sikoa and Jay were face to face. Jay delivered a right hand to Sikoa, so both Jay and Sikoa were fighting. Jay ended up hitting Sikoa with a super kick, and Sikoa then fell to the outside. Jay turned around and he looked at Paul Heyman. Jay started smiling. It looked like he was going to do something to Paul Heyman, but he was taking, forever to lay Paul Heyman out. And that's when Sikoa ended up hitting Jay from behind. Sikoa then ended up telling Paul Heyman to grab a chair, and Jay took Sikoa down. Paul Heyman ended up getting in the ring with the chair, but Jay ended up hitting Heyman with a super kick. Jay then grabbed the chair. He ended up hitting Sikoa with the chair as Paul Heyman ended up rolling out of the ring, and pretty much that was basically that. Overall, this was a great promo between Jay, Heyman, and Sikoa. And Jay is looking like a real threat to Roman Reigns. So Paul Heyman, getting hit with a super kick from Jay. It got a big ovation from the crowd. So this is, good stuff, with the bloodline. It's the only interesting storyline going on in WWE. When the bloodline storyline ends, WWE will have nothing. They will be creatively bankrupt. But great promo this was. And then we had the Austin Theory United States Championship Invitational match. This was a Fatal 4-Way. Grayson Waller versus AJ Styles versus Santos Escobar versus Butch. We had Austin Theory on commentary. So the match ended up getting underway. Grayson Waller delivered a right hand on Butch. Waller ended up going to the outside. Waller got in Theory's face as Butch ended up jumping onto Waller. So back into the ring, Santos Escobar rolled Styles up. Styles kicked out. Escobar ended up going to the ropes, but Styles delivered a drop kick, and Escobar went to the outside. Butch got into the ring, and Waller was on the ring apron, but Styles ended up knocking Waller down. Butch and Styles delivered some right hands in the middle of the ring. Styles and Butch ended up double teaming on Waller. Escobar delivered a crossbody onto both Styles and Butch. Waller got back to the ring, and Escobar delivered a drop kick to Waller. He then delivered a chop to Waller's chest. Butch then delivered a German suplex onto Waller, and Styles with a kick onto Butch. Styles then delivered an overhead kick onto Escobar, and then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Waller ended up knocking both Escobar and Butch down the ring. Waller ended up grabbing Butch, but Butch ended up twisting Waller's fingers. We had later on Styles and Butch ended up climbing the second rope, and we had a sunset flip triple powerbomb, which was great. Escobar delivered a flying knee onto Styles, Butch, and Waller. Escobar ended up going for the cover on Waller, but Styles and Butch broke up the pin. So Waller rolled to the outside. Escobar, Butch, and Styles ended up fighting in the ring. Butch ended up throwing Styles to the outside. Escobar jumped off the top rope, but Butch delivered a forearm to Escobar. He ended up going for the cover, and Waller broke up the pin. So we had a point where Styles was going for the phenomenal forearm onto Escobar off the top rope. Styles was going for the Styles Clash, and we saw backstage. We saw the OC was attacked by Karrion Kross. So Karrion Kross ended up telling Styles that they are not done yet. So Styles left the ring. Waller ended up attacking Styles. Waller delivered a rolling stunner onto Butch. Escobar then delivered a flying crossbody onto Waller. Escobar ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Santos Escobar ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a fun, fatal four-way here. And, they had been pushing Grayson Waller. And it was a surprise that Santos Escobar ended up winning it. And I could see, Santos Escobar and Austin Theory, fighting out for the United States Championship. I could imagine seeing Santos Escobar as the United States Champion. That would be pretty cool. So then, as SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had Styles going to the back, and he was checking on Gallows, Anderson, and Mia Yim. So we saw that. And then we saw the Street Profits. The Street Profits were outside of the arena, and a limo comes in outside of the arena. So the Profits end up saying, oh, it has to be him. So who came out of the limo? None other than Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley ended up returning, and Bobby Lashley and the Profits end up shaking hands. The Profits and Lashley got into a limo, and the limo drove off, and that was it. But it looks like we might possibly get a faction here with the Profits and Bobby Lashley from the looks of it. So maybe. But it looks like that's what they're set up for. We're going to see probably a faction, with the Profits and Bobby Lashley. And then we have promos from Rey Mysterio, Sheamus, and Cameron Grimes about the match next week in the United States Championship Elimination match. So you had, those three kind of promos, Mysterio, Sheamus, and Cameron Grimes to the moon. And then we saw LA Knight. Thank God LA Knight was on the show this week, since he wasn't on the show last week in Madison Square Garden, which I don't know why they didn't book him for the show. He could have got a massive pop in the Garden. But LA Knight came out. He got a big pop from the crowd. We all know how over LA Knight is. So LA Knight got on the mic. He kept telling the crowd, "Let me talk to you." He kept saying all of a sudden, he is everywhere. He kept saying that everyone wants to use his name to get views and clicks. He kept saying that he is the best decision the company has ever made. He kept saying he stands head and shoulders above, and no one can touch him. He kept saying, as for the worst decision made, the United States Championship Invitational. He kept saying that Austin Theory's title is in trouble, and not because 5 men are fighting for it, but because he is fighting for it. You can call LA Knight the megastar, or even the GOAT. So he kept saying, sooner or later, you will be calling him chant, L.A. Knight. And then he says, yeah. And he walked to the back. And that was that. But it was good to see LA Knight here tonight. Finally. It was a damn shame why I didn't use him last week on SmackDown. The guy is so over with the crowd. Main event. Asuka versus Bianca Belair. Women's Championship on the line. Asuka defend the title. This was just very meh, in my opinion. Bayley and Io Sky were shown walking between the fans. Bayley and Io Sky end up holding up a ticket. When they say, oh, we're going to watch the match, they get a ticket in hand. We've seen it done before. So the match got underway. Bianca Belair delivered a shoulder tackle, which took Asuka down, which was followed up by a hip toss. And Asuka was, wearing the makeup tonight. She had the makeup on, which was cool. So Bianca ended up spearing Asuka in the corner. She climbed the second rope, and she ended up hitting Asuka with some right hands. So Asuka ended up rolling under Bianca. She grabbed Bianca by her hair. Bianca then threw Asuka into the corner. So Asuka ended up running towards Bianca, but Asuka ended up tripping Bianca up. Asuka ran towards Bianca. Bianca moved out of the way. Bianca was sent up to go for the KOD, but Asuka delivered an arm drag. Bianca got to her feet, and she had pinned Asuka with a shoulder tackle. And then all of a sudden, we see Charlotte walking between the fans. Charlotte was also holding a ticket. So then, as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Bianca delivered a suplex followed by a moonsault to Asuka. She ended up going for the cover, and Asuka ended up kicking out. Bianca then placed Asuka on the second rope. Asuka ended up hitting Bianca with a missile drop kick. Asuka ended up going for the cover, and Bianca ended up kicking out. So later on, Bianca ended up running to the ropes. Asuka ended up going for the Asuka lock, to which Bianca got out of it. Asuka ended up going for a kick, but Bianca ended up ducking. Bianca ended up grabbing Asuka. Asuka pushed Bianca into the ring apron. Asuka then hanged Bianca up on the second rope, and she fell to the outside. Asuka was on the ring apron. She ended up going for a sliding knee, but Bianca ended up moving out of the way. Bianca then ended up hitting Asuka with the KOD onto the commentary table. So then Bayley and Io Sky, they both jumped the barricade, as did Charlotte also. So we had Bianca end up pinning Bayley with a big boot. Charlotte and Bianca started arguing with each other. Io Sky then slammed Charlotte into the ring post. Charlotte ended up going to spear Io Sky, but Io moved out of the way, and Charlotte ended up accidentally spearing Bianca, and the ref ended up calling for the bell. So Bianca Belair won the match by disqualification. Bayley then ended up telling Io Sky to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase. Io Sky then placed Asuka in the ring. Bayley was about to give the ref the briefcase. Asuka got back up, and she ended up spitting the blue mist at Bayley. So Asuka rolled to the outside. Io Sky jumped down off the top rope. Asuka then took her Women's Championship, and Io Sky and Bayley were on the outside with the briefcase as Smackdown went off the air. Overall, very meh match this was. Obviously, this match was going to end in a fuck-up. I knew it was going to end in a disqualification. But overall, Smackdown, very mid-show it was tonight. Moving on to AEW Rampage, which Rampage was an okay show tonight. We had Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes versus Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. Taya Valkyrie ended up taking on Izzy McQueen. We had the return of Lance Archer. Lance Archer has been competing, overseas, and he made his return tonight on Rampage, and he had taken on Trent Beretta. Konosuke Takeshita was in action, and he had taken on Mentalo, I think that's how you pronounce his name. And the main event, we had the semifinal match in the Women's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament, Athena versus Will Nightingale. Overall, Rampage was an okay show. So Rampage opened up with Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes versus Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. And this was a pretty good match here. Keith Lee ended up scoop slamming both Parker and Menard. Keith Lee ended up dropping Dustin Rhodes onto Parker and Menard. Menard tried to counter against Dustin, but he ended up hitting arm drags to Dustin. Menard then raked Dustin's face. He ended up cornering Dustin to hit some shoulder tackles and some punches. Dustin ended up countering. He ended up nailing punches on Menard. So Dustin ended up dropping Parker from the apron while Parker tried to interfere. So Dustin ended up punching Menard from the second rope. So we had Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. They ended up bringing Dustin out to the floor. Parker ended up hitting some more shots to Dustin. So we went back to the ring. Parker and Menard kept on doing some quick tags to each other, and they would try to keep Dustin under control. Menard ended up sending Dustin into the corner with a whip. Parker ended up coming in, and they ended up double teaming on Dustin. So we had Parker ended up doing a drop toe hold and a knee strike to Dustin, and then Rampage ended up going to commercial. Then when Rampage came back from the commercial, Menard was in control. He ended up hitting a low drop kick on Keith Lee to trip him from the apron. Dustin ended up hitting a back body drop to counter, but Keith Lee was not in the corner. Dustin ended up hitting a snap power slam to Menard, and he tagged in Keith Lee. Keith Lee ended up hitting corner clotheslines, and then he ended up sending Menard into Parker. So Menard and Parker ended up pushing Keith Lee into Dustin on the apron. They ended up hitting a double DDT. So we had Menard end up going for the cover, and also Dustin ended up coming in to break up the pin. Menard and Parker end up bringing down Dustin with a drop toe hold. Keith Lee ended up getting up. He ended up throwing Menard to the floor. He ended up hitting the Supernova, and he went for the cover. So there you go. Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes ended up winning the match. Overall, it was a pretty good match between Dustin, Keith Lee, and Menard and Parker. Good wrestling here. And then we went to a QTV segment. Oh, great. Get QTV off my TV. So QT Marshall ended up saying that he will get things cleared with Powerhouse Hobbs tomorrow night on AEW Collision. Harley Cameron ended up saying that her track is trending at number 12 in Turkey. Who cares? Who fucking cares? So Johnny TV ended up getting the footage of Harley Cameron jumping out of the pool, and they ended up challenging the Acclaim to a trios match next week. Who cares? And then we went to Johnny TV's wife, Taya Valkyrie, versus Izzy McQueen. This match lasted 1 minute. Taya Valkyrie won the match. Post-match, Toni Storm and Saraya end up coming out. Toni Storm got on the mic. She ended up calling Taya Valkyrie a loser because Taya is a Canadian. So Taya ended up getting on the mic. She ended up telling Toni Storm to be worried about her AEW Women's World Championship. Toni Storm ended up saying that she has already beaten everyone. So Taya was like, oh, you already beaten everyone. But you haven't beaten me. So Toni Storm ended up saying that she never had an opportunity, that Taya never had an opportunity. So Taya ended up challenging Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship at Battle of the Belts, which is tomorrow night after Collision. We all know that Battle of the Belts, the past Battle of the Belts, they are very predictable. So, but calling it now, we're going to have Toni Storm retain the title. So Taya ended up trying to insinuate that Toni Storm is worried. To which Toni Storm was like, oh, I'm not worried. I'm not worried. And I will embarrass you in front of your friends and family. So that's what Toni Storm said to Taya. And pretty much that was that. So the match is set for tomorrow at Battle of the Belts. Taya Valkyrie versus Toni Storm. AEW Women's World Championship on the line. Like I said, Toni Storm will retain the title. And then we had Lance Archer versus Trent Beretta. Lance Archer making his return to AEW. He's been competing overseas. He was accompanied by Jake the Snake Roberts. It's good to see Jake the Snake Roberts, come back, return alongside Lance Archer. This was a pretty solid match here. Lance Archer ended up tackling Trent before the bell. Lance Archer ended up manhandling Beretta for a while, and Archer kept beating Trent around. Beretta ended up blocking a powerbomb from Archer, and he ended up hitting a punch to Archer. Beretta then ended up using a low bridge to send Archer out to the floor. Beretta ended up hitting a drop kick through the ropes to Archer. Archer ended up catching Beretta's suicide dive, but Beretta ended up slipping out, and he ended up delivering a super kick to Archer from the apron. Archer was sent back to the ring. Jake the Snake Roberts, he was on the outside. Jake Roberts ended up hitting Beretta with a clothesline to the floor. And then Rampage ended up going to commercial. So we had, as Rampage came back from the commercial, Chuck Taylor ended up coming in to check on Trent Beretta. Archer ended up kicking Chuck Taylor away. But Lance Archer ended up winning the match. So post-match, Archer ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up asking Orange Cassidy to come out because Archer wanted a shot at the International Championship. Orange Cassidy ended up coming out, and match was made official. So Archer ended up catching Orange Cassidy for a choke slam, but Jake Roberts ended up telling Archer not to kill the Golden Goose and wait until Saturday. Wait until Battle of the Belts. So it looks like we're going to be getting Lance Archer versus Orange Cassidy for the International Championship at Battle of the Belts tomorrow night. Overall, solid match between Archer and Beretta. Really happy that Archer is back. And then we had Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh. And they were backstage arguing over Sanjay Dutt slipping in the guitar during the blind eliminated tag match. So we had Matt Hardy's group end up countering the promo. And that was that. But who cares? Who cares? And then we had Konosuke Takeshita versus Mentalo. So Konosuke Takeshita came out. He was accompanied by, of course, Don Callis. Don Callis got on the mic. He ended up saying Mentalo is getting this chance, not only because he's a local, but also because he is Kenny Omega's childhood friend. And Callis ended up saying that this is another reason for Omega being weak. So the match got underway. We had Takeshita end up taking down Mentalo. Mentalo came back with a corner splash to Takeshita. Takeshita ended up hitting a big boot to Mentalo. Mentalo ended up hitting a back heel kick to Takeshita. Takeshita then delivered a clothesline to Mentalo. Mentalo ended up blocking a power drive knee, and he ended up hitting a dragon screw leg to Takeshita. So Mentalo ended up hitting a drop kick to Takeshita's knee, and he ended up hitting a bridging German suplex to Takeshita, to which Takeshita kicked out. Takeshita ended up meeting Mentalo on the top rope, and Takeshita ended up hitting a superplex. Takeshita then ended up hitting a pile driver and a senton from the top rope onto Mentalo. He ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Takeshita ended up winning the match. Overall, predictable match. We knew that Takeshita was going to win it. And then we went to Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette was backstage with the Dark Order. She was with Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and Evil Uno. And she ended up asking them about a low blow to Hangman and Page. John Silver ended up replying because Hangman and Page deserved that. So he ended up saying that everyone leaves them and they are sick of it. He wanted to say that Hangman Adam Page's betrayal hurts the most because they made him the AEW World Champion. He ended up saying last week was Dark Order's resurrection, and either you are Dark Order or not. Pretty much that was that. And then we had the main event, which was the semifinal match in the Women's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament, Athena versus Will Nightingale. This was a solid women's match here. So Nightingale ended up throwing Athena down. She ended up hitting a shoulder tackle to Athena. Athena ended up hitting Nightingale with a tackle. Nightingale ended up hitting back with Tijeras and nails a running forearm in the corner to Athena. Athena slipped to the floor. Athena tried to catch Nightingale on the way back, but she ended up missing an elbow drop. So Athena ended up hitting a dragon screw leg on the ropes to Nightingale. Athena ended up hitting kicks to Nightingale's back. So then Rampage went to commercial. Then when Rampage came back from the commercial, Athena was in control of the match. She delivered a tackle to Nightingale. It was back and forth between these two. Athena ended up dropping Nightingale face first, and she ended up running Nightingale over with an elbow. Both women were trading chops. So we had Athena ended up following up with a standing moonsault to Nightingale. She ended up going for the cover, and Nightingale ended up kicking out. Nightingale ended up countering with a cover, and she ended up hitting a Death Valley driver to Athena, to which she ended up going for the cover, and Athena ended up kicking out. Nightingale ended up pulling down her straps. Athena ended up hitting a diving chop block to Nightingale. Nightingale countered that with a jackknife cover. And there you go. Will Nightingale ended up winning the match. So Will Nightingale is moving on in the tournament. But overall, solid women's match this was. But overall, Rampage was an okay show tonight. But anyways, that's it for the Smackdown and AEW Rampage review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And I don't know if I'll be doing a AEW Collision or Battle of the Belts review tomorrow. So if I don't do it, there will be no review of both shows. But if not, until next video, I'll see you all later.